Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, the Witcher fandom out there has been absolutely in love with so many of those games over the years. A lot of people really enjoy the books. They've gone back and read them. It's one of those things that this is what a adaptation to a franchise, a currently already existing lore, should absolutely do. It should drive people to go dig deeper and get into the original source materials out there. And one of the biggest problems we have seen in the modern era, especially in the video game era out there, especially over the last couple of years, is not only violating their own canon, not only violating their own source material, but completely and totally sidelining some of their main characters that have been huge successes in the past for them to go this path of diversity, inclusion, and equity. And CD Projekt Red is one of those companies that has done that. They have announced very clearly on their own websites that they're all committed to all of the diversity, inclusion, and equity, all the same kind of nonsense that we saw with Sweet Baby Inc., all the same kind of nonsense that we saw with Black Girl Gamers, right? Now, given out there, has it been as overt with some of their games? No, probably not. But one of the things that we saw with the disastrous dumpster fire of the launch from Cyberpunk out there was that this is, I do believe, sometimes is a sign of what happens when you concentrate on all of that kind of stuff instead of getting us a good quality game. We saw that with Star Wars Outlaws, where they launched a broken and buggy mess because that's what they were concentrating on. They weren't concentrating on giving us an actual good, solid game, and we saw what happened with that. Now, obviously, CD Projekt Red has put in statement after statement out there how committed they are to fixing Cyberpunk out there. I know the Liberty City DLC was a really big hit with a lot of the fans out there. I know a lot of things are much better now, but there's no denying the fact that that game, when it launched, was literally an impossible, broken mess for the majority of people out there to play. Almost no one could play this on their current systems without having crash after crash. And I honestly believe now, it used to be, I thought, well, maybe it's because they were forced to shoehorn Keanu Reeves in it because for some reason they thought the Cyberpunk game wasn't going to go ahead and sell on its own, which me personally, I was hugely excited for that game. I was like, this is going to be so cool. This is such an awesome idea. This is such a cool concept. I was like, this is going to be a blast. This is going to be awesome because I've liked things like this in the past, like Deus Ex Machina and things like that. So this was going to be a great little addition to that little world out there, right? And then we ended up seeing what happens. Well, now, boys and girls, with The Witcher 4, we've gotten our first look at the new Ciri, and needless to say, we have more of the same kind of lies and nonsense that we have gotten out of all of these legacy media institutions, these legacy game industry companies out there time and time again. Well, it doesn't actually break canon. You'll just have to wait and see. You silly little gamers out there, you don't know anything about the actual lore. It could easily not break canon. We're not going to break canon. Well, clearly breaking canon, and that's exactly what we've got right here. And needless to say, fans aren't happy. Because we've got this wonderful article over here from Fandom Pulse Substack. CD Projekt Red's lore designer claims despite Witcher 3 ending that sees Ciri die, The Witcher 4 does not break any canon or even offend any canon. Oh, yes, of course. So the gaslighting has officially begun. Just like what we saw with Rings of Power, and they're going, we're not going to break any of Tolkien's lore, yada, yada, we're going to stick to the source material. Well, guess what? We've got another prime example of this, because trust me, boys and girls, the CD Projekt Red that gave you the original Witcher series out there, all of the people involved with that are long gone at this point. Anybody with actually any creative talent or common sense saw the writing on the wall with the diversity, inclusion, and equity stuff that CD Projekt Red publicly announced on their own websites and on their own social media campaigns that they were going to force into things. Well, guess what? People like that either get forced out because they don't want to go along with the groupthink, or, well, they end up leaving on their own because they've seen the writing on the wall and they're simply not going to put up with it. So I literally don't think, even if The Witcher 4 doesn't offend people directly, it still is going to end up breaking their own canon, their own rules, the own things that they have told us. And considering the past of some of these projects out there, will probably end up being a broken and buggy mess. So here we go, boys and girls. Let the gaslighting begin. But before we do, if you do enjoy our content, hit that like button, share with all your friends, and subscribe or follow if you have not already, boys and girls, because we are grinding, we are growing, and I could not do that without every single one of you. Also, leave us a comment in the section down below. What do you think of the Witcher 4 reveal out there? Do you believe they actually do break their own canon by going forward with this? Do you believe the people involved with this are just out there gaslighting, hoping to not piss off the fans right away from the beginning, so this thing turns into a complete and total disastrous bomb of a dumpster fire like we've seen any other before? Or are you cautiously optimistic about this? Let us know what you think think about all that in the comment section down below. So from Fandom Pulse, CD Projekt Red's franchise and lore designer Ciri Marr claims that The Witcher 4 does not break any canon or even offend any canon, despite one of the endings of The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt implying that Ciri is dead. Well, they didn't directly come out and say it, so it's okay with us bringing her back. And I mean, what did they do to Ciri's face? Honestly, it's one of them situations where it's not the most hideous and offensive version of this kind of stuff we have seen in the past, but why is now all of a sudden the bottom of her face as wide as the top of it? Why doesn't she really have that feminine features? Why is she supposed to be looking mean and grim and evil and wrong? And I don't get it. Well, I'm sure they'll use, well, it was the Witcher process, because yes, Ciri's going to be a full-blown Witcher, boys and girls. Oh yes, it's going that far. In an interview with IGN, Myers first claimed, "I think The Witcher is a title that refers to both Geralt and Ciri, and always has." And I've heard a lot of fans out there agree with that to a very large degree. He then added, "I think she's arguably more important to the plot than Geralt himself is." You know, the main protagonist who everybody had fun playing and going out there and slashing monsters with. Yeah, that guy. And yeah, I mean, just look at the lovely still images they're giving of this. Oh yeah, we know where this is going. Later in the interview, Meyer did state, "The one complication is probably the idea that there's an ending in which Ciri can die in The Witcher 3. Well, yeah, that's kind of how that stuff goes when you give people options and choices. And I know I'm going to hear the comments already. Well, that's not the only ending. Sometimes she survives, and maybe that's the ending they're going with. Yeah, whatever. Cope a little bit more. You know this is going to end up being a pile of steaming garbage. Have you seen the AAA video gaming industry right now? However, he then noted there are hints in that ending that highlights the fact that she probably does not die. Despite acknowledging this, he then claims that Witcher 4 will not break any canon or offend any canon. Well, if you're already violating one of your endings from The Witcher 3, that is not only offending canon, but it's also violating any canon. Your words, not mine. So guess what? Yes, you are indeed gaslighting people. And the average gamer out there is smarter than you. Their bullshit meter has been fine-tuned, boys and girls, and they are not going to put up with it. So good job, Mayor. You're already off to a bad start. I can't wait to watch this thing bomb, because unless something changes very soon, well, we know this is the way to go, boys and girls. Have you seen what's happened in 2024? It's unclear how Ciri dying and then coming back to life to become a Witcher does not break any canon or even offend any canon. Regardless, the game is indeed making Ciri a Witcher as well, which does break the canon of the novels which the games are based on. Yes, because even in the TV series, they talked about it as well. Like, well, all the ways to make a Witcher have all been lost. They're all gone. We can't make any more Witchers, yada, yada, yada. I mean, that's something that's like repeated quite often in there. So yeah, of course, they don't care about any of that. Regardless, the game is indeed making Ciri a Witcher as well, which does break the canon of the novels. Ciri does not become a Witcher in the novels. In Blood of Elves, novelist Andrzejewski does show Ciri taking part in Witcher training, but she does not partake a trial in the grasses and undergo the mutations to become a Witcher. Instead, she is taken to the Temple of Meltai, where she received magical instructions from Ninek and Yennefer. IGN's Matt Purslow reported that the game's director, Sebastian Kambala, informed him that Ciri is a fully fledged Witcher and has undergone the trials of the grasses in The Witcher 4. So once again, violating a canon. You said it's not going to violate any canon. Well, that violates the canon of the books. So there you go. Once again, proving that they're just a bunch of liars with their pants on fire. He writes, Kambala explains that following the events of The Witcher 3, Ciri has undertaken the famously painful trials of the grasses, which has mutated her into a powerful and resilient warrior. CD Projekt Red head of studios Adam Brodowski also claims the game will explain how Ciri became a Witcher. Oh yes, you just have to wait and see. You just have to wait and see what's going to happen in the game. Please don't prejudge it. Please don't assume that all of the same red flags you've seen across the rest of the video game industry is going to apply to this. No. That's not going to happen here. Please give us a shot. Dear, if you're wondering how Ciri may be on the path as a Witcher, well, that's the story of Witcher 4 to tell the tale. A huge thanks for your respect and love for the lore created by Andre. Hugs! Oh, for the love of God. Could you have given us any more of a legitimate, fruity answer to that kind of nonsense? Boys and girls, what do you want to bet? We know exactly what team he plays for. And what do you want to bet? We're going to end up finding out that Ciri's going to end up being into girls and like all of this other kind of nonsense and garbage trash. And what do you want to bet? Once again, they're going to hope, just like we have seen with Star Wars Outlaws, just that what we probably saw with Cyberpunk, they're going to hope all their virtue signaling, all of their inclusion of all of these different characters. You're going to have a bunch of gay characters, a bunch of ugly females. You're going to have a hapless, a bunch of idiot men that can't do anything right. And Ciri's going to be the bestest ever, and she's not going to face any challenges. She's not going to face any sufferings. Why do I know this? Why does every other gamer out there recognize this, sniff this BS out, and expect the exact same thing? Because history has taught us this. The gaming industry out there has taught us this because they have legitimately damaged female protagonists and protagonists that aren't white for generations. Minority protagonists out there, they have damaged them for a generation. Why? Because now they have taught every gamer out there, whether you're black, white, gay, straight, or whatever, as soon as you do something like this, as soon as you throw this kind of protagonist in there, as soon as you force this kind of stuff down people's throats, and then you lie to your audience about breaking canon because either you don't know your own canon, you don't care, or you're hoping everybody out there is dumb enough to not figure it out, well, guess what? It's a huge red flag, and we know what comes after. As always, the audience is now smarter than you and always has been. We smell the garbage and crap you're cooking, and no one is ever going to trust a female protagonist or a minority protagonist in the United States ever again because of the kind of damage you have done to your own reputations. Everybody sees this and just automatically assumes it's going to be woke, so why bother? So it doesn't matter if CD Projekt Red's new Witcher 4 is great and fabulous and wonderful, because we have seen what happens time and time again with this kind of stuff. Unless this is the best Witcher game of the series that is not broken, that is not buggy, that does not have any glitches in any way, shape, or form, and considering CD Projekt Red's current track record, do you really think that's possible? This thing will turn into a disastrous dumpster fire, okay? Dragon Age Veilguard is one of the biggest long-running franchises out there, and literally all it took was everybody seeing what kind of mess this game was, how hideous the characters were, and how it was nothing more than about forced diversion, inclusion, and equity. And guess what? It blew up in their faces and has permanently damaged that brand forever. And that's what these people in charge of these AAA video game studios like CD Projekt Red and the people involved with Witcher 4 have done to themselves. It's not the audience, it's not the fans, it's certainly not the gamers' fault that we automatically assume all this kind of stuff. You have done this to us time and time again, and we're not going to put up with it anymore. So guess what? CD Projekt Red, I generally try to give you a little bit of benefit of the doubt because you've been so ingracious to your fans and the broken and buggy mess that was Cyberpunk. But guess what? We know for a fact you have concentrated on diversity, inclusion, and equity. Your own website says this, and now you're sitting in the exact same position, giving us all of the exact same red flags as every other AAA studio out there who has given us a disastrous dumpster fire. And guess what? You've done it to yourselves. Blame the fans, gaslight us all we want. It will not do you any good. Mark my words, if something about this doesn't change, Witcher 4 will be dead on arrival, and CD Projekt Red will have no one to blame for that themselves. But I'm sure they'll blame the gamers anyway. Thanks for watching.